Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about what you can do early on to get those first few gigs or jobs in programming when you're just starting out, when you have no experience, no, nothing to draw upon, no professional track record. It's very hard to get started. Everyone knows sort of the conundrum of you can't apply because everyone wants experience, but then how do you get experience if you can't even apply, right? It's kind of a similar situation. So I'll just give you some tips around that are unique to programming. So number one, you got to have some things on your portfolio. There's no way around that. You've got to have a couple projects that you can literally show and point to. And usually that begins with the GitHub, by the way. So you want to have these on GitHub as well. I would say a good number to aim for is anywhere from 3 to 5, and each one of those should showcase a different like skill area, right? So one should be more design focused, another one should be more data processing. Maybe you're dealing with a massive amount of like data from the one of the New York City.gov databases. Another one might be about maybe it's a mobile thing like something in React Native, something that showcases a variety of skills that may be of use to the company you're applying to. Um, so they have to be good, but I would focus on the appearance first and foremost. I hate to say that it just we are judged on our appearance, not physically, but the quality of your work. And no matter how much people deny that when they're evaluating your work, you can't help but just be impressed by something that looks really nice, and that's just human nature. That's not something you can really control. You can try and moderate that. You can understand it and still appreciate the technical sophistication of a crappy looking project. But the first impression matters a lot, and oftentimes the person who's looking at your work won't be technical, so they'll pretty much be judging you on the appearance of your work. So that's almost literal. Um, so I have this up for a reason. This is a landing page I threw together, I don't know, maybe about a week ago. And I showed it to a couple people in my office, and they all said it looks really nice. And they were very impressed by the sort of the aesthetic of it. I'll scroll through it a little bit more slowly. And this only took me about 2 to 3 hours. Obviously, I used the theme, plugged in a couple images. And here's the key. I didn't use any sophisticated framework. There's no React going on here. There's no like Python Django, nothing like that. It's like the most simple Node backend possible. There's not even a Mongo database. The only thing I did here that took a little bit of thought was the Stripe integration for these payments, and that's it. But this was a quick sort of one-off thing I did to test um, a landing page, and that's it. But the appearance is pretty good, at least from the people I spoke to. Now, that's in contrast with this right here. This is another project I threw together a couple weeks ago, and this is a technically sophisticated project. What I'm doing is I'm scraping several websites to get what's called the spread on gambling events for NBA basketball and college basketball, and then I had to set up the scraping engine for that for each individual sport and each individual website. I'm using 4 different websites right now, and then I had to set up what's called a cron job to keep those lines up to date. If you know anything about gambling, the betting lines don't move all the time, so you want to have like an updated spread. So right now it is Sunday, March 19th, and these spreads are up to date as of probably within the last half hour without me even touching this. I haven't actually looked at this in about a week or so because I got really busy at work. So the spreads continue to be up to date. So, um, and I'm not saying this looks bad, but it's not. It doesn't like pop out as like, wow, this looks really good. So the technical sophistication is going to be lost on a lot of people. Frankly, they just won't care, and so you have to be aware of that going in, and that's probably more true the earlier on you are. So that rule is um, more applicable the earlier you are in your career. So it's important to actually focus on the aesthetic first. I wouldn't. It's not the most important thing, obviously, but make sure it looks nice. It's it's really the same as dressing up for an interview. You can think of it that way. I mean, you wouldn't just because you don't look, you don't put on your if you wear like a t-shirt and jeans doesn't mean you can't do your job, right? If you show up to work in sandals, that doesn't mean you can't do your job, especially as a programmer. But if you show up to work that way, I mean, sorry, if you show up to an interview that way, it's kind of a bad start, right? So it's really the same idea. So be aware of that, and make sure it looks nice. So try to put together anywhere between 3 to 5 portfolio projects that just look nice, literally have a nice appearance. And everything works off that. So you can't really get started until you have that in place. One thing I've noticed, mostly from younger developers like college and grad school, this might be an age thing or it might be an experience thing. I'm not really entirely sure, but I get resumes every now and then, usually around this time of year, spring or so. People are planning for the summer, and they tell me all these things they can do, but there's no evidence to that effect. Like there's nothing on their resume or their GitHub that's live. Like go to this website and literally look at the work I can do. Sign up, test it out, create an account, upload some images, use it. Give me some feedback even. Very few people at the earlier stages actually do that. And their tendency is to tell me what they can do, is to verbally explain what they can do, and that doesn't mean anything in tech. If you've hired people in technology at all, really ever, you by now you've been burned by a few people who say they can do something and they can't, and that's now you have to prove it. And so what that means is put something up live, either publish it in the App Store if you're doing mobile or iOS, or put up an actual live link. It can be a Heroku link. It doesn't have to be like a live website that a million people uses. That's not what I'm saying. But just make sure there's a link that human beings can physically go to and test it out and see if the product works as the way you say it does. So that's number one. So start with that. And if you want some direction on that, as to like what am I even supposed to build? Check out one of my last videos. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Check out this video right here. Hold on, let me just find it. This one. Top job related skills. In that video, I just cover 5 areas as skill areas as a developer that you really want to accentuate when you start out, because every one of my clients wanted some, if not all, of those skills, like photo uploading, Google Maps, things like that. Everyone seems to want the same thing. That's just true. Everyone wants the same things in a different variety. So it's kind of, and that's another one of those things that's more true early on. So if you can really get good at a certain small set of skills, it's really not that many, like 5, 6, 7 things, and really get that under your belt. You should be capable, and then you have to prove it by doing what I said earlier, getting some sites up, iPhone app, whatever. Okay, so that's number one. So do that first, and really nothing else can work until you have that in place. So once you have that in place, the next thing you want to do is send out a bunch of resumes and respond to posts. You want to start lower because a lot of these jobs are going to be too up over your head. So you don't want to start with the high level, 6-figure, 3 years, 5 years experience, that kind of thing. Well, you probably wouldn't apply for that anyway, but you kind of want to ease into it, is my point. So start on Craigslist, apply to 10, 15 on Craigslist, move on to AngelList. AngelList, the quality in AngelList is starting to go down. So, it's actually a good place to begin for beginners. Like, it seems like the word is out on AngelList because it's free to post on AngelList. So you get all the people who are looking for just like, you know, uh, par, tech co-founders and whatnot. So you get a lot of that, but you still get good quality in AngelList too. Apply to a lot, 20, 30, and then see what comes back. And if you're getting nothing back, then you got to work on either the quality of your portfolio or your email etiquette. That's something else that I see a lot of people. They don't really understand email etiquette, which I found to be pretty surprising. Email etiquette is pretty important. Like, because sometimes you're not always dealing with a programmer. You're dealing with an HR guy or a girl. You're dealing with a person who's not a technical individual. And so if your etiquette is off, um, that's not going to reflect well on you. They're going to judge you based on that. They don't care how good you are at your algorithms or how well you can manage memory and things like that. Nobody cares if they think you're a jerk or if they think you're going to be hard to work with. So, what are some things about email etiquette? Like, if the person who responds to me is named, the last person who reached out to me, let me just check the email real quick. Her name is Lori, right? So when I get back to her on email, I always say, hello, Lori, right? Or dear Lori. You'd be surprised at how many people don't do that. They just start like they're text messaging somebody. Um, it's kind of surprising. Like, you don't do that. That's bad email etiquette. Um, the first sentence should be, thank you for reaching out to me, or thank you for getting back to me. I appreciate it. Like, just little things like that actually do matter. And it's surprising how much, like, this is not a technical thing. Like, this is just good job searching etiquette in general. But I've done a lot of reviewing not resumes, but emails and resumes and portfolios lately from my students in my live courses. Excuse me. And some people just didn't understand. They just didn't do that. And that's just so weird to me. Like, clean up that. Don't be that guy. That's such an easy win. Um, or it's more like don't lose for that reason. That's a stupid reason to lose. So email etiquette is important. Get back to somebody within 24 hours. Say thanks for contacting me. Thanks for getting back to me. Um, that's you would think that goes without saying, but I'm finding out more and more it actually doesn't. So yeah, take care of that. Get that act cleaned up. Let's say you get a couple people get back to you, which don't expect a good response ratio, but let's say you get two people get back to you out of like 30 that you send out, right? That's fine. You got two people getting back to you. Good. Um, Another mentality that I see amongst beginners is that the job doesn't perfectly fit what they're saying they can do. Like, let's say, you know, you're studying Node, React, and Redux, right? Ostensibly, that's what you're studying. That's probably why you're on my YouTube channel. That's really what we focus on, right? So you send out a bunch of resumes, and you get one guy writing back to you saying, we're trying to put together a WordPress site, right? And we want to use WordPress and maybe even PHP. I know that WordPress is made on PHP, but maybe they just need like a WordPress developer just to install some plugins and do some updates, right? Which has nothing to do with Node and React. It couldn't really even be further away than Node and React. So, if that's the only guy that got back to you, take it, take it. See if you can even close that deal, right? Because the what what you need to get into is dealing with clients. Forget the programming for now. I mean, obviously it's important, but just dealing with the client even is a skill unto itself. That's a whole skill unto itself that I can like write an entire book on just how to manage that. No programming at all. Just how do you even deal with the client? I can get into that for a while actually. But you can't learn any of that until you have fucking clients, right? Like, that's not something. So you gotta really build that skill, right? Um, so that it's always you just understand how to deal with the sort of the business side of the equation. if you're freelancing, like me. If it was a full-time offer for a WordPress dev, I would probably shy away from that too. But I'm talking about just, just getting your feet wet, getting your foot in the door, right? So, a good challenge is, can you even close that deal? All right. So right now, one of my students, he's going through this right now. Um, he applied to like 15 or so, and he got one person respond back to him so far, saying we need someone to write a scraping module to go through our database, our list of contacts in an HTML form, and then extract it out to a CSV so we can make an Excel spreadsheet out of it. Nothing to do with Node and React. And my student was like, this is not at all what we studied, and I don't know if this is right for me. And I agreed. I was like, this probably isn't right for you. But let's see if you can even close this deal, right? Can you even manage the client? Can you can you can you handle a meeting? Can you convey confidence? Can you let your potential client know that I am the man for this job? Get it to a point where the client is worried that you're not going to be available for the job. That's when you got him. Like, get it to a point where he's trying to sell you, right? Like, oh, you're going to love working for this company. You're going to love, and like that's a hard thing to pull off. But if you're a beginner, if you're just starting out. But my point is that you can't even develop those skills if you don't have any clients. So try to get that first one so you can learn how to deal with clients. And then you're going to learn way more than any book, any class, any of my YouTube videos. You're going to learn way more just dealing with client expectations, managing expectations, how to communicate things effectively, how to interpret what they want, how to let them know that this is going to take 4 times longer than I expected, your budget's going to go up, how to maintain their confidence in that situation. Like, I can't teach that. Nobody can teach that. You have to go through it, right? There's so much of that to go through that you just need to get that first client. I'm not saying take like, a complete bullshit job. Like, that has nothing to do with like, programming at all. But um, client management is the same in any industry anyway. So you got to get that first one, right? And then if you do your job well, that should lead to more stuff anyway. But don't even look at it from that standpoint. The standpoint should be, you need to learn how to deal with clients. You need to learn 2 things: how to deal with clients and how to close deals in the first place. And there's just no, like, you got to always be closing. Like, so another mistake that my student made was he returned an email saying, the email that they sent to him was, are you sure you can do this? Is this something that you're quite certain you can handle? And so then my student responded with, well, let me look it over the weekend, this weekend, today's Sunday. So, and let me get back to you. Let me do some more research. It's a wrong answer because that's already their 4th email, right? That last email that he sent should have been, no, I've done this before. Or, I mean, don't lie, but like, yes, I can do this. It's going to involve one of 2 things. We're either going to scrape the raw HTML, or we're going to look for an API endpoint that returns JSON or XML. Biggity bam, we're done, right? And then, like, that's it. And then here's my quote. Here's my estimation. Close. Like, it'll take 10 hours. My rate's $50. We're looking at $500. 20% wiggle room. It might be up to 600. I have a $200 deposit. Here's my PayPal. Like, just close that thing. Can you do that, right? It didn't even occur to him to do that. That's my point. That's because you need the experience of dealing with clients, because what happens is that what they're doing now is shopping it around. That's what they're doing. They're shopping it around. So now they're taking that, that estimate, because he already quoted a rate. So they're taking that, they're going to Upwork, they're going to Dice, they're doing whatever. They're looking at, dev shops in India, seeing if they can get a better rate. And then when tomorrow's Monday, so by that point, they may have already found somebody else, right? And then it's not that there's a lot of money, but he now lost the opportunity of experiencing how to handle a client, and that's pretty valuable, right? So that hasn't happened yet. I actually think this will come through, but These things can't be taught; they have to be learned. So that's number two. So um, your first few gigs early on won't be like a perfect match for what you want. It just won't. Probably that'll just never be the case anyway in programming, just period, unless it's your own project. So yeah, so keep that in mind. Take what you can get as long as it's somewhat related to programming. Within the context of reason. Like again, don't go way off the reservation, but if it's like like the assignment that my student got, like a scraping assignment where they're scraping raw data from HTML and then trying to convert that into a CSV. Nothing to do with Node, nothing to do with React. However, you can incorporate Node into that. I would set up a server using Node, hit the endpoint, hit the HTML, do all my scraping there, put all the results into a Mongo database. Like now we're using stuff that we taught anyway, right? So, and then maybe I'll create a simple front end that spits out the raw data using React if I really wanted to use React. I wouldn't use it in that case, but you get the idea. Make it work for you, and then if if you do a good job, you now have a good relationship with a new client. You now have a better sense of how to handle a client, etc., etc., etc. So that's an important one. Number three, getting so sticking with that situation. So another one is you get a couple responses, and maybe one or two, like not that many. So it's kind of a buyer's market. Like you're the one who wants the work. They're not really desperate for you, right? So you have to kind of prove yourself. This is completely reasonable. You have to prove yourself because um, you don't have a track record. So what I did when I was first starting out in 2012, when I was first starting out, what I always did was I said, look, just give me a week, sometimes two, to work on this. I'll probably put in 20 hours each week. I want to put together some stuff. We meet again next week. And if you like what you see, you hire me. And not only that, but you pay me for that week, the 20 to 25 hours or so. And if you don't like what you see, then no harm, no foul. You don't owe me anything. I tried my best and it wasn't good enough, and I can live with that. I'll just have to get better, right? And that never failed. That actually worked every single time. Now, it wasn't that many. It was probably like 5. But what you have to do is, number one, obviously you have to have the skill to pull it off. But it's not just skill, it's strategy. So the strategy there goes back to my first point. You want to focus on the aesthetic, not the actual data. Hard code everything. Don't even incorporate a backend. Just hard code everything, and then just make it look nice. Focus on the appearance. Make it look really nice. Spend all your time on that. This is more true for non-technical people, obviously. So like a small startup team that is maybe 2 or 3 founders and they need a good technical guy. This is the right angle. This is the way you play it. This will work almost every time if you can make it look nice. And then they're going to want you, especially if you're not that expensive, which you shouldn't be at an early stage. So that's a good strategy if you're once you start talking to people. It always worked. The only time it didn't work, there's one time it didn't work, but that was my decision, not the other way around. The way it didn't work was, I did my 1 week. I showed them the iPhone app. At that point, I was pure iOS, so I showed them the iPhone app. They liked it, and then they were like, "We like this work. We'd like to bring you on as a co-founder, as a CTO. Like, we're not going to pay you. We'd like you to be one of our co-founders." Like thinking that would be like a flattering thing, right? Like, we think so highly of you. We want you to join as one of our co-founders. And I was like, that's not what we discussed. Like, we had this conversation a week ago. Like, here are my rates. This is for money. Um, I'm not interested in being a co-founder. Like they went against what we had explicitly discussed. So yeah, that was a waste of my time. That's going to happen too, by the way. People are just going to waste your time. Um, the numbers are really not in your favor starting out. And it wasn't for me either. In 2012, I'd say I had to go through like, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 meetings before one converted into a contract. So yeah, every week I would have a couple meetings, one or two, usually on the phone, but sometimes in person, whatever. Um, and I would play these angles. I'd say, let me see the specs, the mock-ups, um, and I'll do the week of work. If you got that far in the conversation, you do a week for free, and then hopefully they like it and they hire you. So yeah, that was a good thing. That was a good strategy, I should say. But keep in mind, it's these aren't like fail-proof methods. These are just ways to increase your odds. So my odds were very low when I first started out. Those numbers are about right. 10 to 15 intros before one became a contract. The first assignment I ever did for money came through a previous contact, somebody I already knew. So that kind of fell in my lap. At that point, I was in Connecticut. I was sort of transitioning between my teaching career and working as a professional dev. At this point, I wasn't a teacher anymore, but I wasn't a professional developer. I was trying to become one. And he was the father of one of my students. So he was already in tech, and he was the father of one of my students. And he said, we're doing some iOS work. I forget how he knew that I was even into this, but um, he said, why don't we try this together for a while? And we did. I worked a lot on it, a lot, like 6-7 weeks or something like that. I only made $2,000, so it was really like that was way below market for the amount of work I put in. We're talking like upwards of 2 months. Um, so that kind of fell in my lap. That didn't really help as far as like getting my career off to a boost, though. It kind of helped in that I figured out the all the sort of things I need to anticipate, like all the problems, like dealing with a weak signal, trying to understand the expectations, trying to interpret what they want from a UI standpoint, dealing with other developers. They had a team in India, and all that stuff. So the experience was okay for that. But from a career standpoint, it wasn't as helpful as you might think because it didn't lead to any more work in the city. That was late 2011. Yeah, late 2011. And then I moved right to the city in January of 2012, and I started my career like properly here. Like I got going for good here. Um, the next one I did was with a small company in Westchester County, which is about 30 minutes north of Manhattan. So ironically, I would have been better off in Connecticut, but whatever. Um, that one I got through Craigslist using exactly the technique I described. I went into the office and they were like, "This is what we're trying to build. Yeah, we're not like, tell us why we should hire you." And I said, "Well, rather than tell you, why don't I just show you? Just give me a week, and then I'll come back. And if you like what you see, start paying me." And that worked. And that was successful. That was a couple months as well. Um, this is just how it went. And then at that point, I had two things I could like on my like professional background. That's going into February of 2012, like 1 month into my, after I moved in the city. So, um, it was a good, just get something going, get anything going, and then it should lead to better and better things moving on. There's a lot of like trepidation I see in beginners, and it's not completely unjustified. Like you're gonna fuck up. Just accept that now. You're gonna fuck up. I certainly fucked up a lot, and some of them were like explosive. Like I think I described one situation in one of my other videos where like the mistake was really bad, like harmful to my career. Um, I mean, I recovered and whatnot, but like it was a bad situation, and yeah, it's gonna happen. So really, what you want to think of is get that out of the way sooner. Try not to like cocoon yourself from that. Like get it out of the way so you can get better and better and better. So you can start learning from those mistakes. These are the things you can never learn in any class, any boot camp, any YouTube video, any YouTube channel. My website will not teach you this stuff. You have to go through it. You have to go through it, and there's no other way. So the sooner you can get in the action, get in the game, the better. So take those gigs uh, that come across your desk. If you have no better option, this is all a matter of what your options are, right? Obviously, if you have a good option, take it, but um, and then keep looking in the meantime, right? These shouldn't be full-time engagement. You shouldn't be taking a full-time shitty job that has nothing to do with what you want. That you shouldn't be doing that. That's not what I'm recommending. What I'm saying is like these small, short-term things. Maybe your dad, is a lawyer and he knows some friends in his profession who need a better website. Maybe he needs a better website, right? Maybe your buddy, he's starting a business and he needs a site. Just stuff like that. Get that going, um, and then you can start pointing to actual professional experience. So, uh, if necessary, do that. I mean, I kind of got lucky with that first one. That he was just he wasn't a friend, but like we knew each other prior to because of the teaching that I had done at the school, and so he knew me from that, and I guess he liked me. I guess he thought I was a good math teacher. So that was lucky. But if you don't have that something like that, just sort of luckily on your side, try to create some of that look. Like see if any of your friends need a website for their business. If your parents know anyone in their line of work, maybe your dad's a doctor or he knows a doctor who runs a private practice and they have a shitty website. Or better yet, just start walking up and down your wherever you live in your town and look for like a retail store, or like a private, like a mom and pop like coffee shop or something like that, and say, hey, I'm trying to get started. There's a shitload of just terrible websites in these like circumstances, like these small private businesses that just have terrible websites. And see if you can just say, hey, I'm just trying to get started. I'll do a site for you at like really cheap, like $100, $200, and if you don't like it, just don't pay me. Um, Totally good way to get going, and then start using that as a way to build up and build up and build up. I would say the biggest drawback that beginners have is they expect too much too soon. So you get these guys who will graduate a boot camp, like I don't want to name names. I don't want to put any boot camps down, but they'll graduate a boot camp and think, all right, where's my 100K a year job? Where's my six-figure salary? And that's just not, that's an insult to all the guys who actually are making six figures or did as software engineers, like me, after the first like 2 years of study, right? I didn't really clear six figures as a software engineer until 2013. And I had started programming in 2010. So that's 3 years, right? Like my first year making six figures as a software developer was 2013. 2012 wasn't a great year for me money-wise, right? Because I was just starting out. The whole first half of the year was kind of crappy, right? So, and then 2010 and 2011, I just spent self-studying, right? Like I was still working in 2010, but you get the idea. So I think a lot of beginners expect too much too soon. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. There are people who can do it. I just wasn't one of them. So I needed more time. Um, but you get the question you gotta ask yourself is, are you one of those people? Right? Are you one of those people who can just graduate a boot camp or graduate a college and then right off the bat you're making six figures? If so, God bless you. I'm happy for you. But not everyone's like that, right? And I certainly wasn't. So I had to work a lot harder to get to that level. Now it's a lot easier. Um, now people reach out to me on average once or twice a week, and I'm just turning them away. So um, it takes time to reach to not that I'm like the best programmer in the world, but you have to build up to that level if you're like everyone else, if you're not exceptional. The question is, are you exceptional, right? I think honestly part of the problem is a lot of people think they're exceptional. They're not. It's okay not to be exceptional. It's okay to be average. It's okay to be above average. I'm probably above average. That's probably where I sit in the programming world. I'm not exceptional, probably above average. That's good enough though. That's good enough. If you work really hard, you can earn an exceptional living. You can have an exceptional career if you work really hard and you with above average talent. I have above average talent. I don't have exceptional talent. Right? Well, that's good enough. I just have to work harder than the guy who has exceptional talent. Now you have to ask yourself the same questions. All right, what is your talent level? Here's how you know. It's not really that complicated. If you are exceptional at anything, music, sports, programming, math, if you're exceptional, you don't wonder why it's so easy for you. You're wondering why it's so hard for everyone else. That's how you know. You're looking around wondering, why is this hard for people? Well, why do you struggle with this? This is so easy. And then you'll know if everyone is the same, if everyone's like, no, this is hard for us. And they're wondering, why is this so easy for you? You're exceptional, right? I know that wasn't the case for me because programming was never that easy for me. It was fucking hard, right? So I know I'm not exceptional. I am not exceptional. I had to work really, really hard. That's how you know. In high school, I ran track in high school, and I was not exceptional there either because I worked really hard to get my mile time down, and other guys were just still blasting me away, right? They would just show up for their first season and they would be beating me like ever. Like they just joined track and by the end of the season they're beating me. And it was really tough, but that's how I know you're not exceptional. I wasn't exceptional. Well, one area where I experienced the opposite was math. In math, I'd done very well in early in my high school career. I mean, throughout all of high school, but like it became evident early in my high school career that I was good in math. How? Because I took the SAT when I was a sophomore in high school, which is a year early. I didn't have to take it, but for some reason they encouraged all the sophomores to take it. It didn't count. It was a practice. So almost all the sophomores took it. It was like it's like only 4 or 5 kids didn't take it, and I got a perfect on the math score. And I remember I looked at it and it said 80. I think this was the PSAT actually, not the SAT, the PSAT. And it said 80, right, on my math. And the kid next to me, because you know how kids are, they say, "What'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get?" And I was like, "I think I got a B or a B minus because it says 80 right here." So I was like, "I guess I didn't have a good day." And he looked at it and he was like, "No, you idiot! You got a perfect. Like you got a perfect score." Like I was like, "What? I don't understand. Like why does it say 80 then?" Because he was like, "That's the best score. It's 20 lowest is 20, highest is 80." And I didn't even understand that. Like I didn't know that, right? So, and he was like, "Shit! Like you just got a perfect score on the SAT. Like do you understand what that means?" And I was like, "I guess I do now. Like you're explaining it to me." He's like, I was like, "What did you get?" So, at the time, I figured it was like any other test. Like I figured in my class there'd be a couple kids who get a perfect, a couple kids who get B's and C's, whatever, right? Like math class, like, you get like maybe 3 kids who'll get a perfect in a class of like 15 kids, right? 20 kids, and then like you get your B's and C's and D's, right? But he was like, no, there might be 1 or 2 other kids in the entire school who got a perfect, and it turns out in that particular year I was the only one in the entire school, right? So it became clear early on that like I possess some natural talent in this. And so I looked around. I wondered like, how why are you not getting it perfect? Like I thought, like I thought he was smart. Everyone's smart in the honors math class. I was like, why aren't you getting it perfect? And like, like just answer the questions correctly. Like, why is this a hard thing to do? That's how you know. Because everyone's like, no, shithead, like this is hard for everyone. Like that, like this is, we don't get perfects. Like this, we have to study a lot for this and still not get it perfect. That's how you know. So that's the difference, right? So I didn't have that in programming at all. In fact, I didn't have that in anything else I ever experienced in life. That was the only thing that came easy to me. So if you're finding yourself experiencing that in programming, consider yourself lucky. I envy you. I wish I had that. I don't. So it was different. So you have to ask yourself where you fit in that trajectory, in that spectrum. And I realized early on that I don't fit in that top 95th, 97th percentile. 2 standard deviations away. I don't sit there. I might sit one, maybe. So, which means I still have to work my ass off, right? So, because of what sucks is those guys who are like really, really good, they're working really hard too. So, like, it's just really hard to stay, in the top, sort of the top quartile even. So where do you fall in that category? And if you know you're not in, you don't have the natural gifts, that means you just have to work a lot harder. And if you can't do that, then quit. That's the only other answer, quite frankly. So you have to have a good self-assessment. A lot of beginners don't seem to not really have that. I was the same. In 2013, I thought I was really good. I actually wasn't. So, I think I'm good now. Maybe I'm not. Maybe next year I'll look back and be, wow, I was a real shithead. Like I wasn't good at all. Maybe. I mean, I hope not, but anyway. So those are a couple things you can do right off the bat. A couple people have emailed me in the last week or so asking me to look at their code and a couple like sample projects on their GitHub. So if you want me to do that, I'd be happy to do that. And I guess let me just punch up my email. I was distracted by text, so I'm sorry about that. And I'll tell you what areas you can work on to improve your portfolio presentation, strictly from a job standpoint. Like this is what will make you more appealing for entry-level jobs. So if you want to send me like some project samples or code samples or even your resume, that's fine. I'll just let you know. It's not like I'm not going to charge or anything like that. So let me know, and hope you enjoyed this video. I kind of got off track towards the end there, but it's all good stuff anyway, so it's all relevant. And hope this video helps you. And I'm going to try and make this channel a little bit more job focused in terms of getting a job and how to like manage certain job situations. Seems like that seems to be the most popular videos that I'm putting up lately, so I'll try and make that a bigger focus in the upcoming weeks or so. So let me know if you have any suggestions or requests. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.